The poor buy respect. The rich invest in cultural capital. In social communication, there's one factor that matters more than people like to admit. You need to prove you're competent in the shortest time possible. That single move gives you control in an exchange, and it quietly warns the other person and everyone watching that you're not someone they can play games with. So let me give you two situations. I want you to listen and notice your own instinct. Scenario one, you're negotiating a partnership with a young woman. She's attractive, wearing heavy makeup. It's your first time meeting and you don't know much about her. You sit down across from each other, and the very first thing she does is place her handbag on the table. The logo is huge, it's unmistakable. LV. What is your first reaction? Scenario two, same setting, same kind of woman, same first meeting. But this time she carries a simple bag with no obvious branding. She sits down, reaches inside, pulls out a book, places it on the table, and looks at you calmly. The book looks serious. Something about cognition, society, maybe sociology, something with weight. Now tell me honestly, which person feels more interesting to you? Which one makes you want to talk, to explore, to test the waters? I once ran a small survey, and the pattern was clear. Almost no one felt impressed by the first woman. Most people described her as ordinary. Nothing special, nothing memorable. The LV bag didn't elevate her. It actually made her feel predictable. But the second woman created a different atmosphere. People felt drawn in. They felt a pull, the kind that makes you want to engage, understand, and even respect before she says a single word. And that's not random. In every era, people from higher social classes attach certain signals to themselves to maintain their position. They don't fall from that level easily, and they don't want outsiders walking in freely. That is basic social logic. In real conversations, the person perceived as higher status naturally holds the initiative. They dominate the tone, control the pace, and often end up gaining more in negotiations. That's why, in social interaction, you need a premium shell from the start, something that tells others you're not low value, you're not easy to control, not easy to manipulate. In the past, luxury goods were the easiest tool for this. Most people couldn't afford them, so brands like LV, Chanel, Hermes became standards of the upper class. A person wearing an expensive watch wasn't checking the time. They were signaling taste, status, and distance, creating a gap between themselves and everyone else. But society has evolved, and those signals have weakened. Today, brand name goods are losing their power to prove status. On one side, many people can afford them now, or at least can appear to afford them. Even working class people can save every coin or go into debt just to own a luxury item. On the other side, luxury shopping channels have expanded. E-commerce, imports, personal shoppers, overseas purchasing. Owning luxury isn't rare anymore. And then there's the internet. Counterfeits spread it everywhere. People are willing to pay big money for a label even when it's fake. The result? Branded goods are everywhere, and people become numb. Look around today. What is still worth showing off? Designer bags, perfume, luxury clothes, flights, cruises, vacations, expensive cars. Almost everything has become accessible, at least on the surface. That's why you see fewer truly wealthy people trying to prove themselves with luxury cars now. In the past, a luxury car was a clear sign of status. But once too many people started borrowing money to buy the same cars, the truly capable buyers stopped enjoying them. When everyone can imitate the symbol loses meaning. And here's the interesting part. When branded goods and luxury cars became common, society didn't stop dividing people. It simply upgraded the system. A more fashionable, more powerful method of stratification emerged. Cultural capital. This is a concept introduced by the French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu, and it's become a new tool used by the elite to block lower classes from copying their way in. Before we go deeper, don't forget to follow this channel for more truths about money and to help you reach financial freedom faster. I often joke that the first half of economics solves material problems, and the second half solves spiritual ones. Once part of society has satisfied material needs, their main desire shifts. They start chasing meaning, knowledge, identity, and inner fulfillment. We are entering a society where knowledge can be more expensive than designer handbags. A few years ago, the famous American magazine The Atlantic published an article that made a sharp observation. Lower income groups tend to spend money on visible things people can see, like designer bags, clothes, electronics. But higher income groups spend a larger portion on invisible things people can't easily see, like fitness, graduate degrees, and knowledge-based courses. The article concluded that in the modern material era, what separates rich from poor isn't only the ability to earn money anymore, it's also the ability to spend money correctly. Someone once said a person's spending style quietly predicts the social level they will reach in the future. The cruelest truth is this: poor people often spend wrong just to show off, draining their pockets to satisfy vanity. Meanwhile, the rich spend to invest, to upgrade themselves, to become even stronger. Spending for face is irrational spending. It's consumption driven by insecurity. The less money someone has, the more they cling to pride, until they fall into a trap they don't even realize exists. One person shared a story that illustrates this perfectly. She had just graduated from college and had no job. Life was tight. One day she needed to prepare for an interview, so she went to the mall to buy cosmetics. The packaging was beautiful, luxurious. She wanted it. But when she saw the price, she hesitated. Then the sales clerk said, with a tone that wasn't even trying to hide the sarcasm, "Ma'am, this is a big brand. Of course it's expensive." In that moment, she felt humiliated. She felt like the clerk was implying she couldn't afford it. So she pulled out her card and paid immediately. She spent about $25 million, nearly an entire month's living expenses. When she got the receipt, regret hit. She preserved her pride in the store, but for the next 2 months, she lived painfully frugal just to recover. Economist Thorstein Veblen described this as conspicuous consumption. People spending beyond their condition to satisfy the desire to show off, to gain admiration and envy, to look special. But in the end, conspicuous consumption turns people into money-hungry black holes. It makes them poorer and poorer. I also knew a young man like this. His salary wasn't high, but he was always generous, always paying for dinners, dragging friends into late-night karaoke, burning half his paycheck for temporary excitement. And he wore designer brands from head to toe. One day I saw him holding the newest iPhone 16 and asked, "Didn't you just change your phone recently?" He smiled proudly and said, "That one's old now. Apple released a new model. Everyone's upgrading. If I don't upgrade, it's embarrassing to see people. Besides, I'm paying installments. Each payment isn't that much." In the end, because of face, he spent wildly and ended up buried in debt. A magazine once wrote something painfully accurate. When someone becomes obsessed with appearances, their life becomes heavier and heavier. Pride can be infinite, but wealth is limited. When you chase infinite vanity with limited money, the money you fight for gets slowly drained by envy and emptiness. Over time, your finances erode until poverty becomes difficult to escape. Now contrast that with a different kind of person. Writer Trung Mong once shared his own spending philosophy. He came from a science and engineering background and knew little about literature and philosophy. So years ago, he spent a large amount of money enrolling in a history class at Guanghua School of Management at Peking University. During that time, he also took courses from many famous professors at Peking University. That investment expanded his worldview and raised his cultural literacy. Later, he enrolled in the Shenzhen Institute of International Public Welfare Research to study fund management. Over 2 years, including tuition, he spent nearly 200,000 yuan. Those investments became knowledge capital that helped him mature, build his own enterprise, and develop his writing career. People who understand the value of spending for the future and who are willing to invest in long-term personal growth can move 10 years ahead of others. In this world, money can be a great servant, but a terrible master. Only when you treat money as a tool, something that serves you and increases your personal value, can you truly live in alignment with your real worth. Look at people like Mark Zuckerberg. He wears the same simple t-shirts and jeans year-round, rarely spending on material pleasure. But he invests heavily in health, training, personal coaches, performance. Or Bill Gates, who drove an old car for years but never skipped reading, subscribing to publications like The Economist and constantly investing in information. These invisible investments compound. They grow like a snowball rolling downhill. There's a line in the book like Confessions of a Shopaholic that captures this idea. People who know how to spend also know how to invest in themselves. True self-investment is not spending money on things that display your current value. It's spending money on things that create new value. Spend money to improve job skills, and you become more efficient, more capable, more valuable. Spend money on books and learning, and you expand your mind. Learn to spend money on what truly matters. Saving money for knowledge is investing in the future. An economics article about spending habits once explained it clearly. What you need is efficient spending, not useless consumption. Useless consumption is buying things that start losing value the moment you purchase them. Designer clothing, new phones, status objects. Efficient spending is economic behavior that can generate returns. And in this world, spending to increase your personal value is the most efficient consumption of all. I know a man who proves this. He grew up poor and had to drop out of school early to survive. He started by washing dishes, cleaning, and serving in a restaurant for a very low salary. Many workers like him saved every coin and refused to spend, but he was hungry for books. He saved money by cutting snacks and small pleasures just to buy used books. 2 years later, he used the little he saved to register for an adult college entrance exam. After graduating, he got a job at a large hotel. Because he had education and ability, he got promoted quickly. Today, he's a senior manager with a salary and benefits far beyond his past. Li Ka-shing once said money isn't meant to be stored, it's meant to be used. Spend money on what makes you improve, and you'll receive returns and real results. Money spent where growth happens creates value. Money spent on pride only creates temporary satisfaction, followed by long-term pain. Your spending attitude reflects your class. Invest in yourself so your value keeps rising, and your life will keep becoming more expensive in the best way. In economics, there's a term called consumption upgrading, choosing smarter consumption in a more balanced spending structure. On a personal level, upgrading your spending mindset determines whether your future becomes wealthy or trapped. Quit spending for face. Put more money into self-investment. Knowledge, skills, professional strength. You will become a more valuable version of yourself. But there is one prerequisite. Only after you solve basic material needs do you earn the right to talk about the spiritual ones. Now look at social class in the US. Imagine you meet two young women by chance. One carries a simple bag, nothing flashy, but she cares about national issues, society, real questions. She even carries a book titled something like The Fate of America. The second carries a designer bag, but what she cares about is celebrity gossip and daily entertainment drama. It's obvious which one likely belongs to a higher class and has higher income. A person's financial level shapes what they pay attention to. Their cognitive level controls what they discuss. Their position reveals itself in how they spend money and how they talk. This is cultural capital. In future relationships, the books you reference and the viewpoints you share become signals. Only people of a similar level recognize those signals, and that's how real connections form. In this era, what proves class is no longer just a designer bag. It's no longer only visible objects. Visible things can be copied easily. Invisible things are difficult to imitate. Still, communication requires skill. Next time, try placing your favorite book on the table. It doesn't mean you must finish it cover to cover. Just carrying it can elevate your energy and presence. Books are not only the best communication tools, they are also one of the most powerful tools for refining a person's aura. In every era, the rich need some sign to maintain their social position. They can't leave their class easily, and they don't want others entering easily. Recently, a post on US social media went viral with hundreds of thousands of views. The title said something like, "The era of visible consumption is over." This is the era of invisible consumption. The post argued that elites in America no longer rely on luxury goods to show off. They've found a higher-level way to flex. It referenced Veblen again. Humans use material consumption as a ruler of status. In old Europe, silverware was a symbol of nobility. Later, yachts and smart security mansions became standards for wealthy households. Today, a Hermes Birkin for women or a Mercedes S-Class for men can still broadcast a message: I'm rich. But why do people say flexing is ending in America? Because mass production and globalization changed everything. In the 20th century, manufacturing moved overseas, especially to China, making once rare luxury goods far more accessible in the US. Designer bags and shoes end up stacked in outlets at discounted prices. Even college students can buy iPhones without debt, not because they're richer, but because installment plans make it easy. $299 down, then $40 a month for the newest model. Not only iPhones, luxury cars costing hundreds of thousands can be leased and financed, letting ordinary people access them. A friend in the US leased a Range Rover. After paying $2,000 up front, he paid $800 a month for 3 years. At the end, he could pay $50,000 to own it or return it. That's mass consumption. But mass consumption breaks the exclusivity of class. When middle and upper classes can all buy designer bags, luxury cars, European travel, Bahamas cruises, everyone looks the same. So the upper class starts feeling anxious. They need a new way to maintain difference. Before we discuss how elites do that, we need to clarify one question. Who exactly are the upper class at the top? A survey cited by the New York Times in 2007 suggested that to join the top 1% income group in the US, you needed annual income of roughly $380,000 or more. If measured by wealth, you needed around $8 million in assets. Later data cited by outlets like Business Insider discussed how in places like New York, San Francisco, and Boston, top 1% income thresholds can be dramatically higher, often well over $500,000 a year. Many of these people are doctors, lawyers, corporate executives, and hedge fund managers. Between 2007 and 2017, their spending habits changed significantly. Data suggested the wealthy reduced material consumption, while the middle class stayed relatively stable. So where did the elite put their money? Into places most people can't easily see, especially education. Top 1% families often spend a much larger portion of household income on education than middle-class families. Since the late 1990s, education spending among the wealthiest households has risen sharply, while middle-class spending has not changed much. Private elementary school tuition in the US can be around $10,000 per year, and private high school can be around $15,000 per year, and many schools are far more expensive. These costs can exceed the price of luxury handbags. This isn't conspicuous consumption. It isn't material consumption. It's long-term, invisible spending, and it's expensive enough to be out of reach for many. In the classroom, children of wealthy and middle-class families might look similar, but outside the classroom, the gap becomes obvious. Wealthy children have private tutors, family travel experiences, and a wide range of extracurricular activities. These experiences are as valuable as academic learning. Elite schools in wealthy areas, like parts of North Carolina, can have multiple indoor gyms, theaters, swimming pools, tennis courts, football fields, and more. In those environments, it's common to see teenagers with strong physiques and confident presence, shaped by training and good early development. Elite admission systems, such as at Harvard and Yale, often evaluate more than grades. They look at background, upbringing, childhood opportunities. The advantage of early investment becomes visible. The true difference between ordinary people and elites isn't just who has a bigger house or nicer car. It's education. Many famous American families have generations graduating from top schools, and some even set up educational funds to preserve that tradition. In Vietnam, you've heard similar ideas from successful figures too. Deng Leng Nguyen Vu once said he raised his children with strict discipline, teaching them direction and ambition, and wanting to become someone his children could be proud of. Doan Nguyen Duc has also spoken about education and sending children abroad, not just for better schooling, but for independence, to avoid being trapped in the label, the rich kid's child. People often complain that entering the upper class is almost impossible. But as long as the social pyramid still has space for effort, opportunity remains. In recent years, TikTok became huge. Many influencers made a lot of money quickly. Some came from ordinary families, didn't study much, yet after earning money, they bought luxury goods, dressed like elites, and looked like they had entered high society. But did they truly rise, or did they only upgrade the costume? I once heard about a female streamer who used all the money she earned from live streaming to study abroad in the UK. In my view, she had the strongest potential for real social mobility because she understood the real gap between classes. A successful father once said something powerful about his daughter. "I don't want her to only be successful. What is success? Just making money and telling the whole world? That's not the point." He believed the core of quality education isn't teaching you how to hit the peak. It's teaching you how to stay loyal to your passion, to build a personal ideal in your field, and to create value for others. And of course, anyone who reaches that stage is already a success. The more capable a person becomes, the harder they work, because everyone around them is also strong. Meanwhile, people without motivation become lazy, like frogs at the bottom of a well. When everyone around you seems the same, you start believing life is already good enough. That's why the truth about the world can feel cruel, yet also deeply inspiring. Because wherever you are, the people richer than you are still working, day after day after day,